Today we're going to look at what is probably my favourite set of clubs out of all the clubs I own. I've had them for quite a long time. In fact, they were one of the first classic sets I ever bought over 7 years ago, and unbelievably I've never hit a shot with them yet. Partly because they're a ladies set, but also partly because the woods are a bit fragile looking and I'm not sure whether they stand up to a full shot. Anyway, enough of the introduction. Let's go and have a look at the clubs now. What about these for a set of woods then? I've had these clubs for quite a bit over 5 years and I've not played them yet. The woods here, I don't think I ever will play them, to be honest. The faces are, well, I'm not sure what they're made of, an early type of plastic. But how strong they would be now, I'm not sure. They might have degraded, they might not. But if we look at the top there, we can see and it's actually concave, and this was a patent. We've got the patent number there, or registered number 783362. The clubs were sold by Sid Warren Green, who was the professional at High Peak Golf Club near Buxton in Derbyshire, and we can see the name of them there, Peak High Super. I'm assuming that this is a persimmon wood. We can't actually see any of the wood in there. It's possible to just make out some grain there, and it does look like it's persimmon. So we have some form of plastic face with pins in there. These would be plastic pins. When the face would have been drilled, the pins put in and glued in there, and then the face affixed to the club, and it's screwed in with two large screws there, and we can see, if I catch the light, where it meets the persimmon part of the head. It's a whipped neck to the club with a bit of a ferrule, chrome shaft. On the sole of this one there's no identification at all, but it is the larger club, so I would assume that that's the driver. On the sole of this one we have a number 2, and finally we've got this one, which is the number 3. See that stamped in the sole there. Aluminium sole plate again. And let's have a look at the shaft band on these. True temper dynamic, made in England, and the dynamic shaft appeared around about the mid-1940s and continued up to the mid-1950s. And also we have another label here that says Peak High, which is the model reference, as well as being associated with the club where Sid Warren Green was the professional. The grips on them, I'm not sure whether these are those sort of partly rubberized grips. It's got a nice well, in each wrap you've got 2 bulges, so it gives a good feel to the club. So they're the woods then. Very attractive set of woods. Now let's look at the irons that go with them, see if they can keep up the standard. Before we move on to the irons, let's try and find out just exactly who Sid Warren Green was. I've been able to find out that he was the professional at Buxton and High Peak Golf Club by the 2 clubs that I'm showing here, which are very similar in style, and they have the same shape. The registration number is a little bit earlier, so I think these are earlier clubs than the ones that we're about to look at. But it does say quite clearly on these ones, Sid Green, Buxton High Peak Golf Club. I've also found that Sid Warren Green was professional for a short time at Sphinx Golf Club near Coventry, which is no longer in existence, sometime in the mid-1960s. Well, let's get back to the irons now then. Right, here are the irons. When we were looking at the woods, I asked if the irons would be able to live up to the standard set by the woods. I think they certainly do. These are, of all my irons, I think these are my favourite set. They've just got a simplicity about them that I just really like. I've got the whole set on the table, which I don't normally do. Luckily they've got the numbers on the back here, so we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and also a 10. Recently we looked at another 10 wedge, which I think was pre-war, and it was a sand club. So this one I think is the same sort of idea. If we look at the bottom there, we can see that it does have a little bit of bounce. So, and it's also got a flange on it, whereas the others haven't. They're what I would call a pure muscleback. So let me just move these ones out of the way. Right, so let's start with the 3 iron. I said this was a muscleback style. The muscle shell is a convex shape, and this one, musclebacks often feature the weighting just at the bottom, but this one has it across the whole back of the club. If we look at that there, we can see that it's raised very much like a mussel shell. Lined face with frosting on it, excellent condition. The whole set is in really nice condition. Peak high and S Warren Green again. So it's a very clean looking club. Black ferrule on a brown shaft, and it's a true temper, made in England, dynamic again, and again it's the L flex, ladies flex. The grip itself on these ones is a Super +4 grip. I have seen adverts for those in golf magazines, made in England, and it's definitely a leather wrap grip, and the book cap is just held in place with a screw. So there's not a lot I can say about these really, other than that they're just a beautiful set of clubs. If we look at the 2 iron there, I like the way they've got the big spot on there as well, so you can see which way up they're supposed to read them, and that makes it clear that this is a 6 iron. And if I find the 9 iron, we've got the 6 and the 9. Lovely clubs. I could eulogise about them all day, but we need to look at the putter, and I'm going to keep the other clubs on the table while we do that, because it's from the same set, Peak High, Sid Warren Green, and interestingly it's got a number 9 on it. So this is one of the few sets where we've got 2 9 irons. So we've got the 9 on the putter and the 9 on the iron. Looking at the putter, a much thicker head. You want more weight on the putter, and the face is the same as the irons, that grooved frosted face. The shaft, exactly the same. It's a true temper, dynamic, ladies flex, and again we've got the Super +4 grip. So there we are. That's my favourite set of clubs. A full matching set of Sid Warren Green, Peak High, woods, irons and putter. So if I'm not going to play the Peak High woods, which woods am I going to play? Well, the answer is clearly on the table here. These are not quite as old as the Sid Warren Green clubs, but they are a style that would have been around at that time. We've got plain wooden faces, persimmon heads, there's no insert in there, so these are a throwback design as well, although they are quite a bit more modern than the Sid Warren Green clubs. We have true temper Profit shafts, which came out at the end of the 1950s and ran through the 1960s. So I'd say these would date to somewhere around 1960. And we can see there we've got an S, so these are a stiff shaft. So I've got stiff flex shafts in the woods and ladies flex shafts in the irons. We'll see how that plays out when I get down to the course. Let's have a look at these in a little bit more detail, see exactly what they are. Lorry Octoloni, handmade. These are being refinished at some point in their life. They've got new whipping on there and they've been sanded and given a new coat of varnish. And here we have the one, the driver. This one is the number 2, which would be the brassy, although you can't see it on the stamping. And this one, the stamping is even fainter, and that one would be number 3, the spoon. So that's the woods that I'll be playing. We'll conclude this review of the clubs by taking a look at the lofts. The irons start off quite strong for the time, 17 degree 2 iron, 21 degree 3 iron, but then they gradually come round to where I'd expect them to be with a 40 degree 7 iron, 44 degree 8 iron, before the lofts accelerate again and we end up with a 52 degree 9 iron and a 57 degree 10 iron, or sandwich I suppose it is. Well, I think I've made it pretty clear that these are my favourite set of classic golf clubs, but just in case there's any doubt, let's have another quick tribute. That's the clubs then. Hope you enjoyed this review of them, and I hope you're able to watch me playing them in part 2. Thanks for watching. Bye.